Hello, Jason Andera alongside Joel Sage. We're going to be calling the state tournament baseball, Class B, starting Monday and finishing on Tuesday. We've got 8 teams in this field, Joel. And first of all, these B teams are not used to playing as many doubleheaders as the A teams are. And they've got, if they want to win it, they're going to have to find some pitchers and some depth. And that's always an issue in Class B, isn't it?
Absolutely. They'll need to have some pitchers step up who maybe haven't been in these situations as much. I kind of saw a little bit of that in the region matchups over in Del Rapids and then over in Canova, maybe not as much in Canova, because they had guys throw almost, they had a young player throw 6 2/3 innings, Colby Clausen in the first round, and just ran out of pitches, so they had Samuel Cleese come in and get the last out. And then in the championship, Riley Ginslinger took the ball and did not look back.
And we're going to focus on these quarterfinal matchups, and they're not seeded other than the number 1 and 2 seeds from each region cross-play different regions. And here's what we got. Here's a look at the schedule. At 11 a.m., Howard takes on Vermillion. At 1 p.m., Platt, Geddes, Dakota Christian, White Lake, Corsica, Stickney. We're not going to say that every time, are we, Joel? But the Honkers take on West Central. And at 5 p.m., we've got Dakota Valley taking on Redfield. And the nightcap is Del Rapids and Gregory. Let's get into each one of these matchups, and we'll start with the first game of the day. Howard takes on Vermillion. Now, you went and watched Howard play. What are some overall takeaways of watching this team?
Howard's a young team. They have only 3 seniors, but their younger players didn't seem to let the moment get too big for them. And Riley Ginslinger, like I mentioned earlier, really took the ball and he wasn't going to give it back. I mean, he's a senior, and you could tell he wanted to go out and compete, and he pitched a great game. That was a fun 1-0 game to watch. As a matter of fact, I think he faced the minimum through the first 4 innings. Both pitchers, I think it was Connor Gross on the other side for Castlewood, just gave up the one. I think they each had given up about 1 hit through the first 4 innings. Howard actually threw a runner out trying to steal, so that's how Riley was able to face the minimum. But he struck out the side in the 7th. It was impressive, and that was, of course, after Howard was able to manufacture 1 run in the top or the bottom of the 6th. It was 0-0 heading into the bottom of the 6th, and Jackson Kampshoff, their center fielder, hammered a ball over the center fielder's head and got a triple on it, and then they were able to. Their cleanup hitter had what was probably scored an error, but high, deep fly ball to right field that would have gone for a sacrifice fly. But J.C.4 did a good job of sending it to the outfield and getting that run in, getting them on the board, and that was all they needed.
It's been an exciting year for Howard. They, as Nick Kepsel told me, weren't planning on going 13-0. But they went undefeated. You know a little bit about going undefeated. It's not on the radar, but it's kind of nice when you get to the end of the season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to go through the gauntlet, so to speak, and not lose a game, it's exciting. And now they just want to keep it going and make the most of their first state tournament appearance.
Their last regular season game was against Madison, who's in their region. They had to win that to get the number 1 seed. And Nick Kepsel said it wasn't so much about getting the number 1 seed, but that was a big confidence boost when you can beat a team like Madison and play with those bigger schools, because Howard's probably the smallest school left in this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the first things that people wanted to talk about when I went over to watch the game in Canova. The Howard region, they were telling me all about that Madison game and just how nervous they were with falling behind 3-0. It was 0-0 after 7 innings, and then Madison put up 3 in the top of the 8th. And sure enough, Howard had to come roaring back and put up 4 to win it.
Just to add a couple more notes, Riley Ginslinger has probably been their ace this year. He said he pitched great. He's going to be in Rapid City this weekend performing at the state track meet, and then haul back to the birdcage, and maybe he'll get the ball in game 1. We'll see how he's feeling. It's only 4 days rest of pitching and no days rest from athletics.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's up to the task. He's a great little competitor, and there's a couple other kids doing that too.
Yep.
Samuel Cleese, I know, throws discus, and then Colby Clausen is a sprinter too, and so they'll go out and compete in that and then come back and be able to play in the state baseball tournament on Monday.
Well, let's hear a little bit more from Nick Kepsel. I talked to him earlier this week just about their team and what they do best.
Well, I actually told the boys last night after the region final that they actually kind of surprised me a little bit. I knew we'd have a pretty good team, and of course, no coach ever goes into a season thinking you're going to go undefeated, and that's really not the goal. And I really didn't even mention to them that making the state tournament was really a goal either. You're right. We were just happy to be playing ball at the beginning of the season, and first couple outings, just like everybody else, they're a little shaky. We got lucky and won a couple of ball games early. And to be quite honest with you, you could just see our confidence, and some of our younger guys just kept growing as the season went on, and just kept finding ways to win games. And had some real close ones here at the end of the season. The Hamlin took us to extra innings, and Madison took us to extra innings, and culminated with the region final last night against Sioux Valley with a 1-0 ball game. So, I mean, there could have been easily could have been a couple of losses in there along the way, but just found a way to win. And I think we're playing our best ball right now, which is what you want. So
that Howard team, undefeated on the year, and they've done it with a 12-man roster and 11 healthy players this year. Is that positive or is that a negative? I don't know. I mean, who's going to be out there every day at least.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a little scary as a coach because you don't want any other injuries. You don't want anything to happen where, you need everybody to chip in. And that's a small roster, but they're getting it done. They found a formula that really works. It's kind of neat to see their starting pitcher in the first game. As I mentioned, Colby Clausen went 6 2/3. And, then he went and played shortstop in the championship game, just basically traded places with Riley Ginslinger, who was the shortstop in the first game. So, they have a formula that seems to be working, and they're just rolling with it.
Well, their opponent is Vermillion, and they come out of, speaking of gauntlets, Region 1 was full of great teams this year, and Vermillion got through the regionals and had some really good success, and they beat Elk Point Jefferson, which was kind of a highly ranked team all this year. Anything you want to add about Vermillion?
Well, they're a traditional powerhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like they're always in the mix in high school baseball and Legion baseball, going way back to Jason Galt, really getting that program on the map and winning state titles in both high school and Legion, and now they're continuing to do what they do.
They won 13-2 over Hanson and 11-2 over Elk Point Jefferson, so back-to-back double-digit games. The big meat of their order, Connor Saunders, Jack Kratz, Jake Jensen, and TJ Tracy have really fueled this team, and their ace, I guess, would be Jake Jensen. 6-1 on the year, 1.19 ERA, whip below 1, 36 Ks and 41 innings pitched. They've got some depth in their bullpen, but they really feel like they can throw out a few different pitchers and make this thing work. I talked to Tom Heisinger a little bit earlier this week and got his take on this Vermillion baseball team.
Yeah, it's kind of been up and down. We started out by scoring quite a few runs, and then there's times where we kind of struggle to get guys on and move them over and things like that. So we've had a bunch of new starters this year, and they've kind of been learning along the way, but we feel like we're peaking right now, and that's a good thing for us. We've been better offensively, and our pitching has been, I'd say, pretty strong the whole year. So we're just kind of keep that going.
Yeah, as far as Vermillion, I would say they really won in convincing fashion in that region down at Elk Point Jefferson. Yeah. Elk Point Jefferson was having a terrific year. And that game, I believe, was rained out, and they came back and finished the next day.
Exactly.
So they came back ready to play. And I think they'll take this momentum into the state tournament and make a little bit of a run. They're
a couple contenders in that first game of the day. And as we hit game number 2, Platt Geddes, Dakota Christian, White Lake, Corsica Stickney wins out in Region 4, and they get to play West Central. And when I did my survey at the beginning of the year, it was hard to tell for coaches who was going to be good, who wasn't. There was a year off. There were some new co-ops. But West Central kept coming up, and they do normally. They're another traditional power.
Yeah, they really are. And one of the things I've always been impressed with in terms of West Central is they develop arms. They have plenty of pitchers, and should be poised to be able to play 3 games if they can win that first one and keep rolling.
They got into the regionals and handled their business against T and absolutely erupted in the region final for a 20-0 win over T. That had to give them some confidence. You mentioned the pitchers. Noah Hone got it done for them. He's had 3 games started this year. His ERA is under 1. Seth Gabbert, 2 starts, has 19 strikeouts in those 2 starts. And their team batting average is .318. So would bet you're getting hits. You got a deep pitching staff. What else do you need to make a little run here?
Well, playoff baseball.
Yeah.
They need to get guys on base and do well with 2-out hitting. You'll come up with the big hits when they need them. Maybe play a little small ball if needed, get a bunt down, move some runners up with stolen bases, and find a way to do the job.
And they draw Platt, Dakota Christian, White Lake, Corsica, Stickney. The Honkers is their team name, and they've made it to state before. They were 10-1 this season. Their only loss came back in the middle of April on April 16th against Parkston. And they got some key wins this year. They beat Winter Cologne. They advanced to the state tournament. They've got a lot of talented athletes on this team. You don't think of them necessarily as, baseball team, baseball town. They have some good tradition there, but they won the state football this year in Platt. Their basketball team was ranked most of the year. A lot of good athletes on this Platt team.
Absolutely, and with the football experience at the moment won't get too big for these guys.
Right.
They've been in pressure situations. They've been to the Dome. So rolling into Canary Stadium shouldn't be intimidating to them. They're going to go out there and have fun and try to play their best baseball. And I think they definitely win with the best team name.
Yeah, they do. Go Honkers. The middle of their order, Grayson Hansen, Caden Foxley, Kelby Vanderwerf. Those are guys who star in all those different sports, some really good athletes. So looking forward to that second game between the Honkers and the Trojans. Game number 3, Dakota Valley and Redfield. And I don't know about you, but I almost had written in Madison as a team that was going to make the state tournament. They ran into Redfield, had to go extra innings to get the game done. And Redfield is a team that's been a little bit under the radar this year. It's got to be, I don't know, is it refreshing to be an underdog, or is that something they would like to have some more big wins this year?
Yeah, I mean, it can be. It worked in the region tournament. They were able to get by Madison, who I think a lot of people probably, as you mentioned, had penciled into the state tournament.
Deep
they
team.
had a great team, and they played some tough Class A competition to prepare themselves. But, yeah, Redfield came in, and they were up to the task, won it in extra innings.
Didn't play as many games as a lot of these teams in the Class B field, but they have triplets on their team, Camden Osborne, Peyton Osborne, and Owen Osborne, who have experience at the state level. They've been contributing since they were 9th graders. They're now much more mature, and they're putting together some really good seasons. But let's hear from Tommy Gregg, their coach, and hear what makes this team so good.
I was pretty pleased with how we hit against Madison the first game of the year. I was a little nervous about that. We just kind of had to get some of the kinks out early on. And funny thing about it is Peyton Osborne and Aspendall both faced each other in Redfield early. Both were kind of on some pitch count deals, but I don't want to say we beat ourselves, but we did some things what you would expect early in the season, and we felt like we've cleaned those up. Go to Howard 2 days later, score 3 runs in the first inning, don't score again. Just kind of beat ourselves again. And then kind of a play that got us going as we went over to Miller and New and Heiss, and we were down 2-1, and we had bases loaded, 2 outs, and we had a pop fly hit to center, and they dropped it, and that kind of ignited us. Just that's weird how baseball works that way. We really needed that. I mean, we were looking at maybe being 0-3 at that point because he was kind of on cruise control. And then we kind of got going there and kept pushing them to get better. We're kind of young, but yet we're kind of old. I do the Legion too. So I've had Peyton Osborne and Camden have been on the Legion team for about 3 years now. Owen's been there a couple, and Easton Miller. But their dads had them coming all the way up through teener ball and stuff. So this is a group that's been together. They've had some success. They've had a runner-up finish in teeners, junior Legion, and some of them were part of our success in 19, I think it was, in Legion ball, plus being a part of some of those state tournaments. So it was just kind of a deal where I wasn't sure where we would be because not getting that season last year. I
Right.
thought that would be a year for about 4 or 5 of our guys to get their feet wet, and then maybe this year, and then looking at some of those guys the senior year, and it didn't start off great, but then we got going, and we're playing well right now. I'm very pleased.
Their opponent, Dakota Valley, who also got through that Region 1, they were the top seed, didn't have much trouble. They're one of the favorites coming into this thing, and they always have a ton of athletes, and one really special one.
Yeah, you have to feel great about your chances with Paul Bruns on the mound. Hasn't given up an earned run all year, and just a minuscule whip and plenty of strikeouts. He'll go out and dominate. They know what they're going to get from him, and if they can use that momentum to keep it rolling, that'll be good for Dakota Valley. And he's just as good at the plate too.
She is. How many times do you have the leading pitcher, also your leading hitter? He's been outstanding.
Yeah, he's every bit as advertised, and I think everybody knows about his basketball prowess, heading up to UND to play basketball next year. But he can do it on the baseball diamond too. He
can, and his younger brother Isaac Bruns, another guy in that lineup who does a lot of damage. And they've really kind of got 2 aces on this team. Jake, I'm going to murder his last name here, but Perchiniak is just a youngster, but he's well over a strikeout per inning this year, and they feel like if they give the ball to Jake Pruchniak, we'll go with that. You'll correct me when you hear this. And then Paul Bruns are the 2 guys that have been absolutely outstanding on the mound. They just feel so confident with those guys going at it. So you got one of the top-rated teams in Dakota Valley, one of the underdogs in Redfield. That should be a good third game of the day. Let's move on to game number 4. We got Del Rapids taking on Gregory. So Del Rapids is a team that really challenged themselves this year schedule-wise. They would take on anybody who wanted to play them.
Yeah, and they've been doing that for a while now.
Yeah.
They've stepped up and scheduled some Class A teams to kind of see where they stand and play some tough competition. Usually see some really good pitching when you play the Class A teams. Not that there's not great pitching in the Class B ranks, because we all know about Austin Henry.
Just a little more depth.
Rapids.
But let's go talk about Austin Henry.
Had a chance to go over and watch him pitch on Tuesday night, and he's every bit as advertised. Throws the fastball, got to be upper 90s, or upper 80s, lower 90s.
He's in the 90s, I
and
think.
Just a tight spinning, sharp breaking curveball. It's a knee buckler when he has that going, and he struggled a little bit with command in that game. I think that's probably uncharacteristic, but 12 strikeouts, left with a 3-1 lead, and things got wild after that. But giving him the ball gives them a great chance.
And he ended up the season so far 92 strikeouts in 37 innings pitched, and Dane Eady tells me that's a record in Class B for most strikeouts in one season. And he's just a junior, folks. He's heading to Wichita State in 2 years. So they'll have their hands full. His brother, Jack Henry, has also had a good year on the mound. He's a little younger. But they've got Braden Pankinen. They got some guys that can throw the ball for them. It'll be interesting strategy-wise to see how they use the pitch count to get the most out of Austin Henry.
Yeah, and I would imagine they want to match him up and just have him go as deep as he possibly can. It'd be fun to see him, go all 7 and see that strikeout tally get up to 15 or higher, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Wichita State, they're getting a great one with him, and wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him be drafted by MLB.
Well, let's hear from their coach, Danny Miller, who's had a lot of good teams in Del Rapids, and he talks about why this one is special.
We've grown a lot. Started the season, we're pretty young, so early on in the season, we had our struggles, especially offensively, a little defensively too. Pitchers struggle to throw some strikes and stuff, but as the season's gone along, our bats have gotten a little better. Our approach has been better at the plate, and then pitchers are doing a lot better job not putting guys on base.
Yeah, that game on Tuesday night was definitely a wild one. As I mentioned, Del Rapids took a 3-1 lead into the 5th, and Austin Henry ran out of pitches. Brought in their little lefty, And he struggled a little bit with his command, and Lennox took advantage. They had a couple hard hit balls too, and maybe took advantage of an error, but ended up tying it at 3. And then they held Del Rapids scoreless in the bottom of the 6th. Went in and took the lead 5-3, and I mean the tension was palpable in the audience. You know, people were getting nervous from Del Rapids, and over at Rickaman Field, beautiful night for baseball over there. But they rallied and came back, and it was 5-4. And Austin Henry came up to the plate, their best hitter, 3-hole hitter, just hammered a ball over the third baseman's head to left field. Scored 1 to tie it, and looked like it would be a walk-off because bases were loaded. The runner from second, they sent him, which rightfully so. But Lennox made a great throw to home and got the runner, so it stayed tied. And
Playoff
Del
baseball,
Rapids,
baby.
Yes. And now 2 outs, and Del Rapids still had to score 1 more. It looked like it may go to extra innings, but they got the job done. They had a little squibber to second base, and it was just enough for an infield single, and scored the run from third. So game over, sent them to state.
I think most people will tell you, Del Rapids has a few more on their roster. Dakota Valley's a little bit bigger school. But games like that tell you when you play baseball, anything could happen, especially when we get to state.
Yeah, it can. And, credit to Lennox, too.
Yeah.
They had a couple really good pitching performances that day. Peyton Ike win a complete game and had 7 strikeouts and just 1 walk in the opener against McCook. And then his little brother, Connor, threw a good game, 3 2/3. Gave him a chance, kept him in it. And then they went to their bullpen, and Braden Wolf was really good in relief. Just got a little shaky there in the 7th. But fun game to watch.
I hope we get some good ones like that in the state tournament. We're looking forward to it. Their opponent, Gregory County. So Gregory actually co-ops with Burke, traditionally rivals, but they get together and they play baseball, and it's about half and half mix between the two schools. They went 10-4, so they lost a couple games through the season, but they look good in the regions. It's kind of fun to have some new blood. This is the first time they've made it to a state tournament in the spring. They've had some good success in the lower levels, but what do you think about having a new team like this, and is it going to affect them to be on the big stage?
Well, yeah, it's exciting for these players, their coaches, the whole community.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing they'll support them really well, just like Howard will, making their first appearance, and all these other teams too will bring some great fan bases in, and it'll be a good environment. Will the moment be too big for these younger Gregory players? That's the big question. Going up against Austin Henry, if they decide to throw him against them. They may go with Jack too. Jack threw a good game in that opener over in Del Rapids against Tri-Valley. I think he went all 7 and just allowed 1 run. So he's a good one too. But it'll be interesting to see how these young players. It was fun to listen to Neil talk about them and just how they've kind of bonded and stuck together. And he's coached them all the way through the ranks. And fun to hear him talk about them. And it seems like their stars are only freshmen, so bright future.
Really, their top 2 hitters are freshmen. One of their top pitchers is a freshman. This is a team that last year, the season was canceled. They had a lot of seniors from last year that they thought maybe this would be a team that they could make some noise with. And they were thinking, well, we got to reshuffle the deck. We're going to have to see how the young guys do. Well, the young guys came through big time.
Yeah, absolutely. They're playing great baseball, so fun to watch.
Their leading hitter, Rylan Peck, I always do a double take here. He had 765 this year. He was hitting 800 at one point. But 12 extra base hits, 26 total hits this year. I don't care what kind of stint you're in, who you're playing against. That's crazy. That's great.
Yeah, 765 is hard to do even in slow pitch softball.
Yeah.
So to do it in baseball, that's impressive. He's having a great year.
He is, and he is one of those players who are going to try to make a run here. Let's listen to head coach Neil Hilla as he talks about his Gregory team.
And Gregory's got a pretty decent baseball tradition. It's mostly been summer ball in the past. Right. And, we felt like we could kind of get these kids to compete at the high school level with the club ball in the spring. And, we got a good group of younger guys that really took interest into it. And that's kind of what brought a lot of this out. They grabbed it, they got their friends involved. And, I've been coaching this group since they've been 10, 11 years old, and kind of watching them grow up and develop as players, which which was, it's been a lot of fun for me. It's pretty nice to have kids that buy into a program and buy into your system and help the other kids, show them kind of what we're trying to do here and watch some of these things and have the success because of it.
Well, there's a look at your 8 teams in the field. We're going to be on the call, so I'm not making any picks, but what are you looking forward to most about watching these 8 teams come to the Birdcage?
I can't wait to see the aces. I mean, I don't want to list them all because I'm going to forget somebody.
Yeah.
But we've already talked about all of them, who's going to throw, and I can't wait to see, who really steps up and who can go deep and who can find a way to manufacture a run or two to beat one of those aces.
I'm not rooting for upsets, but if we saw some, that would be fine. And upsets are always fun, and it's so fun for me to watch these B schools because you got bigger B schools, Dakota Valley and Del Rapids. I mean, Madison was before they got eliminated. And then you've got some really small schools with Gregory County, Howard, and even Redfield is kind of a little bit bigger, but they would definitely be on the small side of this Class B because they're playing by themselves with one town. I am really looking forward to seeing how those West Central schools do against those small schools and see if there's a little chip on their shoulder for the small schools.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting day of baseball. Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, we will be live on Monday with 4 games starting at 11 a.m. And then Tuesday we'll have the semifinals and the championship game. So just lock it in on Midco Sports Network. If you don't have the channel, you can download us on Midco Sports Plus. Follow the directions and watch all the action there. For Joel Sage, I'm Jason Andera. Thanks for watching.